No, it's not.
It is.
Now it is.
Hi. Today I'm going to give a persuasive speech to convince. My title is Why Homeschool is the Right Path of Education versus Public School. My specific purpose of this speech is to convince you, the audience, why homeschooling is better academically for our students versus public schools education. Do you ever question the depth of learning that our kids are receiving in versus homeschooling or public school? Speaking from experience, I can tell you how life as a homeschooler typically is. Our mornings start around 8 o'clock in the morning, no pressure to get up too early unless your mom makes you do otherwise. But normally speaking, school starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. And we're usually done around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so not too long of a day. However, on the other hand, you have life as a public schooler whose morning typically start at 6 o'clock in the morning, waiting on the bus to arrive. And your days don't end until 4:30 in the afternoon, and that's usually just when school gets out. Does not include the 30-minute to hour bus ride you might have home. Now let's talk about hours spent actually learning in these two educations. Homeschoolers spend 4 to 5 hours learning material for exams and for higher testing and so forth. This means that when we sit down and start working on our schoolwork, we are not distracted by movies or other class activities. I guess band would be considered not learning, but anyway. So we have actually 4 to 5 hours of strict learning. This does include a break for lunch, so that is 6 hours tops of school, and then you're done for the day. Then you have a public schooler, who I get this information from an interview I did with a friend of mine, Cameron Ellis, who's a public school student, and she told me the public schoolers have 6.5 hours of learning time. This does not include a 5-minute break you have between every class period, or lunch break, or recess. So your 6.5 hours do not consist of your whole learning day. That's just while you're in class. One of the things we worry about in our education is peer pressure. Peer pressure affects how we learn and the rate of learning for our students. Homeschoolers are in the safety of home and a home environment and do not typically struggle with peer pressure. So they are not affected by this at all, and so their learning curve does not change depending on if they're being bullied or peer pressured. Public school kids do have to worry about peer pressure, and this affects their grades because then you have children not wanting to go to school. You have kids not focusing on their learning because they're too worried about the kids next to them or the bullies in their class. So these issues result in a lower learning scale. Then we have testing. For homeschoolers, testing isn't that big of a deal. Testing is always scary, but there's no pressure to be the first one done or not be the last one sitting in class. You have a nice quiet room to sit in with your tester, who's usually your mom or your dad. So it's not too scary. Public school kids do not have that. They're in a classroom full of people, full of other students, full of distractions, and they're pressured to be the first one done and not to be the last person sitting in class and taking the test. Homeschoolers only have big final exams in 3rd, 6th, 9th, and 12th grade. This information I got off of TripSavvy. Public school kids have finals every 18 weeks and benchmarkers halfway through their semester and milestones at the end of every school year. This information I got from Devin Thompson, another high public school friend of mine. So homeschoolers are in class less time, but are better prepared for the material that they're learning for exams. They have less distractions, no bullying or peer pressure, so they have higher scores. Public schools have more time in class, less time learning, more distractions, peer pressure and bullying, lower grades on exams, and this equals lower scores overall in their classes. So now that it's all been laid out, what do you think is better? Homeschooling your children in the safety of your home and the way you want, or sending them off to the big scary public school where they waste most of their day in between classes, are worried about bullying and peer pressure and other distractions, and are less prepared for their exams?